If you could walk someone to the gates of heaven, take a peek inside, and then come home again, would you? Well, that's exactly what happened to a sweet little girl named Ashley Dial. This story of a miracle begins with a tragedy. Just before she died, Cheryl Dial went to her mother with a strange premonition.
Cheryl was in my living room telling me that she didn't know what it was, but she knew that her and Daniel were going to die. She said, I don't know what it is, but Daniel and I are going to die.
Robert and Joan Fricke retired to the peaceful little town of Herman, Missouri, to be close to their only daughter, Cheryl, and their adored grandchildren, 5-year-old Ashley and her baby brother, Daniel. Early in the afternoon of April 4th, 1992, Cheryl and some friends headed into town for Easter photos of the children. Suddenly, a car filled with men who had been drinking all night headed straight for them at 70 miles per hour. In the worst alcohol-related accident in Missouri's history, 7 people died.
When a drunk driver killed a mother and a baby boy.
Returning home, Robert and Joan found a note on the door to call their pastor.
Well, we made a few phone calls and the lines were busy. We got nothing but busy signal. And about that time, we noticed that headlights were coming down our driveway. And it was our deacon that came and broke the news to us.
Little Ashley was the only survivor. When rescue workers finally found her, she was bleeding profusely, buried alive under the crumpled dashboard and her mother's body. She had to be airlifted 70 miles to Columbia Hospital. No one thought she'd live. Her left leg was crushed, her liver severely damaged, part of her lungs collapsed, and she suffered extensive brain injuries. Ashley lapsed into a coma. It seemed as if they were losing her.
The pain, the sorrow, the hurt comes from a depth in you that you have no idea that's there. It totally rips you apart.
15 days later, and of all days, on Easter Sunday, the first miracle occurred.
Dr. Hellickson from University Hospital called. Ashley's out of the coma. So we went in the room, and Ashley says, "Hi, Grandma, hi, cramps."
Therapist Karen Moore visited Ashley daily, helping her cope with her terrible loss. From the beginning, she knew this was a special child.
Her recovery was miraculous because she could not only speak, recognized people, but she could also drink and eat, and she really was a miracle.
Then the second miracle occurred.
While we were talking to her, Ashley was faced towards us, and then she looked away from us and looked up the ceiling, and her voice was very weak and shallow, and I couldn't hear everything she was saying. But she said, "Daniel, Daniel, Mom." And she carried on a conversation with him and smiled and would nod her head.
But when she raised her hand and went like this, and she spoke up loud enough to hear, and she was saying, "Goodbye, Mom, I love you."
"Bye, Daniel, I love you." And then turned back to us, pointed up to the ceiling. She says, "Can you see the hole? Can you see them? Can you see them?" And she kept repeating that, "Can you see them? Can you see the hole?"
In heaven, it's bright like that, and it's so bright that the sun was shining on it, and there's never any dark. I saw my mom, and I saw the man. The man told me I had to go back, and my mom said she loved me, and then that's all I remember.
She said to me that Mom had been there with her when she was in the coma, encouraging her to come out of it. She was lying in bed, and she'd raise her little eyes up as far as she could, and she said, "They went that way. They went up." And I was going with them, and they stopped and said, "You can't go. You have to stay. It's not your time." And so she said, "I'm here, and they're in heaven." She just seemed so at peace with it, like Mom had gone off to work. And she knew where she was, no big deal.
I think he just pulled back the veil and let her see a little bit of heaven to help her.
After 3.5 months, Ashley was finally able to go home. Nurse Amy Power was there during the difficult physical therapy process.
From a coma, we never see someone heal as fast as Ashley, appeared to. I mean, something was on her side. Someone was there to say, hey, this girl's got to be here and we're going to make it the best we can.
4 years later, the best miracle of all is Ashley herself, a healthy, happy little girl. We arranged for a reunion with her nurse, Amy.
Ashley! Hi! Amy! How are you? Gosh, you're growing. Look at you.
To complete the reunion, therapist Karen Moore came back to visit Ashley.
Look how big you've gotten.
I know, she grown.
I'm 8 years old.
So excited to see you.
Me too.
You do.
Her looks good. You can run like the wind, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
Ashley's a miracle child. She blessed me tremendously by being able to work with her. I have a very strong religious belief, but to have a small child take your blinders off is very humbling. She just was so positive. Heaven's there.
Yeah, but good thing I got to stay here. Or I wouldn't see my grandma or grandpa.
Many times when I cry, Ashley will pat me on my back and say, Grandma, it's okay. Mom's in heaven and she's happy.
She's doing fine. She gives us nothing but joy.
She's our daughter.